by way of quick introduction, because I once gave a 3.5-hour presentation on social media to a group of CEOs, told them everything they needed to know about how to use social back in 2010. And when asked for comments or questions, the one lady said, well, I really loved your talk, but I didn't pay attention to you for the first 30 minutes because you didn't introduce yourself, and I had no idea whether or not you knew what you were talking about. It's like, thanks. That's some crazy feedback, and I'll make sure to not make that mistake again. So here's a little photo of me working from home. And this is probably a couple of weeks old at this point. I can tell that my beard still looked like I was paying attention to it. I've been working out of my house. I started in 1998. So I've been doing this for a minute. I've had a few jobs in between where I couldn't do that. But for the last, since I've lived here 9 years, I've worked out of this house every single day and beyond that. So what I know for sure, these things work really well for me. I'm going to give some variations that may work for you. And we're going to kind of roll through 10 to 12 different big ideas that I think are going to help you in this transition, in this time, and making the best use of this time. So before I say any more, at the very top of this slide, you see where it says, go follow MI Kindness Pandemic on Facebook. I respectfully ask that you do that if you're looking for good news, or if you see positive things or random acts of kindness that you want to share. This group is about 10 days old. We've got over 5,000 people in it already, and they're sharing wonderful stories from around the state of Michigan about people doing good. And boy, oh boy, is that refreshing and nice to see in these times. So there's my little shameless plug for a fun group. The one thing that I guarantee most of us agree on about this work from home situation is that the commute is awesome. I mean, oh my God, how much better is it walking down the steps or down the hallway to go get that cup of coffee or go have that first meeting with your spouse or your kid or your pet or whatever? Holy cow, this is great. I don't think anybody misses traffic. I'm sure some of us wouldn't mind being stuck on it or in it once again just to see some folks. But as a rule, let's agree that a traffic jam now involves maybe both dogs walking down the stairs at the same time, and that's not a bad deal. So just fun times, fun times. So yay on the new commutes. One of the things that new commute allows is it changes the hours you can work, right? So in the old days, if you had a start time at 8 o'clock, if you lived close, you probably left at 7:40, 7:45. If you didn't live close, maybe you were leaving a lot further than that. And that becomes a little bit difficult. Now, if you add in a trip to lunch or a trip to a client meeting and a trip home, you could have like 2 hours in the car, right? So much different. The beautiful thing is about working from home is you're not just confined to the 8 to 5 time frame. In fact, I encourage you to no longer be confined in the 8 to 5 time frame. I encourage you to, at 10 o'clock when you'd normally be working, go play a game of cards with the kids, right? Because you can actually work at 7 o'clock at night just as easily. And believe me, it is so much less stressful trying to fit an 8-hour productive day over the span of 16 hours, right? From the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, it's so much easier to cram that stuff into a much larger time frame. I'm not saying that you shouldn't set some goals and some rules, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But the idea of expanding and time expanding probably is a welcome feeling for most of you. It's an interesting piece how deadlines have changed a little bit. Has anybody noticed that? I would love to, it's hard to see the chat and the presentation at the same time. So if there's any comments, maybe Stephen or Bree can pop in and unmute themselves and share so we can respond in real time. That would be great.
Yep, got it.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So, all right. Now you're all in this, like we're at least 10 days in this. Some of us are, 3 weeks, depending on who you are and when you started. The one thing I recommend is don't get so set on where your work area is that you don't go explore other possibilities. One of the beautiful things about working from home is you're not necessarily confined to that one space. I mean, some of us have a nice home office, and if that's the case, great. Do your thing and then shut your door and leave your work in that workspace. If you've got that set up, that's awesome, because then you can actually separate the two. But we have to understand now that work has infringed on our home life, right? So instead of making it a problem, let's figure out how to integrate it into our home life, right? Because if we're smooth and we get out of this quickly, it's going to be May, right? And who knows when in May. It hasn't been announced. I'm not making an official announcement. I am not the governor. It is not my call. But common sense would dictate that it's going to be May. So, Steve, go ahead.
Our friend Amber Taylor, her approach is do some work, and then do some housework, do some other projects, and kind of like I'm envisioning a 90 minutes on, 30 minutes off kind of a thing. And I've been guilty myself of just, 10 o'clock, I got a chat here from Bree. I like to send emails at 10 o'clock at night. I don't expect you to respond to them, but it's the ease of being able to work, and like we jet out at lunchtime and walk the dog and that kind of thing.
Heck yeah, man. And that's a beautiful piece of this, right? And the more we can do that and get in the flow of it, the easier it becomes.
And in his defense, I will defend you by saying he has transitioned from a 10 p.m. text to a 10 p.m. email. So you don't have to reply right away, but it seems like that's when your brain starts firing off, is in the evening when the kids go to sleep.
Yeah. If it's a text, respond, but an email at 10 o'clock, way more appropriate than a text message at 10 o'clock.
It's funny, right? Because we have that condition that a text needs an instant response, but an email, well, I got 18 hours on that. I can slough that off for a little bit, even though they all come to the same damn thing, right? They all show up right here. So it's fun. So, but as far as the space planning goes, mess around with it. Find where you're comfortable. I was joking with Steve and Bree before we started. My wife turned my office into a storage room because I started working in the living room or in the dining room. She's like, "Oh, you're not using this office anymore. Let me throw a bunch of junk in there." And so that's great. Well, now she's working from home, and she's like, this living room, dining room setup you have is pretty nice. I'm going to be taking that. So I am doing a bednar. See, these are so much more fun. I'm dressed. It's okay. So we're good. But mess around.
Here's a good one.
Yes.
Jennifer says she will not work in her kitchen because that's the main gathering place, and you're tempted to eat more when you're in there.
Convenience, right? Proximity can be a pain. That's good advice.
Tonya, I'm on this as soon as this is over. She's working outside today. Poolside home office is open early this year.
Ooh, good for her. I am looking for my floating office being launched soon, so I'm excited about that for sure.
One quick reminder for those who are leaving comments, please make sure that you switch your to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the comments coming through.
Good. Housekeeping. Yes, very important. All right, so space planning is one thing. Routine planning is something totally different. Now, here's a question for you all. How many of you have reverted back to some different habits that you've maybe gotten better at over the years. Maybe your eating habits have gotten a little worse over the last couple of weeks. Maybe your sleep patterns have changed. You know, I noticed that I'm back to staying up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and sleeping until 8, 9-ish now. Whereas I had finally moved up to sleeping by 1 and getting up in the 7 o'clock range. So what about your exercise? Are you still taking time to feed your body, whether it's or to work your body, not necessarily feed it? Going for a walk or a run, doing some yoga, right? It's a great time to be taking care of that. But I'm curious about those routines and how they're different. And I really want to point out that for those of us, especially that are sleeping at different times, you are reverting to your natural state, right? The reason I'm going to bed at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning is because that's when I would naturally go to sleep, right? I don't necessarily like being up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So my thought here is, just because this has been your routine doesn't mean it should be, right? We have adjusted to this work life that says 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. That doesn't mean it's right for us. So I suggest embracing some of that. And again, also, we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can integrate walking the dog at noon, like Steve had talked about. We'll get to that in just a minute. So shifts. Amber, you nailed it, right? We used to work in shifts, and sometimes the way like software is developed, they use this thing called an agile methodology, where they create a list of different tasks and they quantify them by 2 hours, 4 hours, or 8 hours. And if it's longer than 8 hours, it's instantly broken into multiple tasks, because you can't have a task that's going to last longer than the day. And you start working and you go through it. And you finish what you finish. But at some point, you have to get up and go grab a drink or go to the restroom or go talk to your neighbor or whatever the case may be. Now, in this world, our shifts are a little bit different. I suggest exactly what Amber talked about, the idea of working for 50 minutes out of the hour and playing for 10, or working for 3 hours and playing for 1. And play at this moment can be walk the dog. It can be hang out with the kids. It can be go talk to the spouse, right? We have to integrate into the folks and the people and the beings that are in our space. Maybe you want to go work in the garden. Maybe you need to go do some laundry. Maybe you're like our house and you got to run the dishes. Oh my God, can we give a shout out to the dishwashers? Are those things getting overtime work? Is there just me? I'm curious. How's your dishwasher holding up? There's a question. Are you using your dishwasher more in the last month than you ever have? I want to know. Inquiring minds, and I'm inquiring. So there's your shifts. I want to talk a little bit about the whole prioritization, and I'm going to share a really good story in a few slides about how to put this into your model. But right now, if you're not really working on the top 2, what are you doing? There's other things. It's going to be interesting for us, and we have the time and the energy, and we have the time and the energy to kind of reassess how we work, what we work on, what we prioritize, right? Where are we spending our energy? And if you're not leveraging your skill set for their highest and best use, you're probably doing it wrong. And I run into this from time to time because I do some consulting for clients. In fact, I was editing a video last night, and Steve will tell you that there's no way anyone thinks I know how to edit a video because they've never seen that happen in time. But I was doing it for a client because I wanted to deliver something, but it's going to be like a C- project because I'm not a video editor, and it's not a good use of my time or energy. So I need to use that lower left-hand quadrant and delegate that to somebody else, somebody that actually has the right software and knows how to use it, because it'll take them 10 minutes to do something way better than I could do in 2 hours. So I want you to think about your business, your workload, and how you can apply this quadrant into it, right? How do you make sense of what you're doing based on this? So it's something to think about. And then while you're thinking about those things that you have to do, I'm sure most of your to-do list people, curious, again, maybe you can raise your hand or maybe you can comment. How many of you, when you look at your to-do list, have more than 20 items on it on a daily basis? And then when do you write that to-do list? Do you do that at the end of the day? Do you do that at the beginning of the day? Curious about the answers to both of those questions. But more importantly, of all the images of to-do lists that I could have chosen for this slide, I was super intentional about this one. And it was because of two reasons. Number one, not only does this slide have a photo of a to-do list, but it also has a picture of a clock and a calendar. And the reason those two things are so important is if you've got a to-do list, but you're not scheduling, like actively putting in your calendar time to work on your to-dos, when do they get done? Right? So it's super important to me and to folks in general to actually use this, because ultimately, if you're not doing it, it's not going to work out, right? You're not going to actually finish the work. So I'm seeing the comments blowing up. I'm sure that they're answering the questions, and I'm looking forward to either hearing about those in a moment or reading those when we're done. So thank you for responding. Appreciate that. It's always weird when you're presenting to your computer. Because really, honest to God, I'm looking at Steven's name, I'm looking at Bree's name, I'm looking at my face, and I'm looking at this slide. And, it's audience interaction's really fun for a presenter, and not having it's a little challenging. So thanks for that.
We're here for you. We're
I
here.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's easier actually if I'm looking at you, but that's cool. I'm good. You do what you want to do. I
There's
don't
a
know.
few comments. Would you like us to share?
Yeah, please. Let's have some fun.
Tonya Aka, she says a top 6 per day, but she also works through an extended list for the week if she's really over ambitious or working 16 hours a day like we seem to be. Bree says to do, doing, and done. And Jennifer is being vulnerable here. I'm learning that I'm not as organized as I thought I was.
That's a good lesson right there. Tonya, I'm going to talk about that 6 for 6 thing. I have a sneaking suspicion we follow a very similar methodology. I'm going to talk about Ivy Lee. And if y'all don't know Tonya Aka, oh my goodness, please go follow Tonya Aka, spelled Tonyaacha. Super, super awesome connector. And I don't even know why I'm telling you. You already know that. Good gosh, I'm so silly sometimes. Anyway, so Jennifer, I appreciate that organization skills. I continually work on pretending to have any. So I get that. I get that indeed. This right here. Hi. Welcome to your new coworker crew. They're probably not as chatty around the water cooler as the folks you're used to, but they definitely will demand and require different levels of attention, and probably at the most inappropriate times. The great news is everybody's experiencing it now, and everybody's used to the idea that the dog either barked or Zoom bombed you, right? I love the phrase Zoom bomb. I thought that was cracking me up first time I wrote it, and then now I'm seeing it everywhere. That's a good one. But the kids require time. And here's my thought for you, and this is an important lesson. If you're doing a webinar or a webinar at noon, tell your people that you're doing it, because they'll actually probably respect it. You can tell the dog too. The dog may not care, but make sure that you let people know, because we have to communicate when we need actual private or quiet time to get stuff done, because otherwise, how do these people know what's actually going on? So share. In related news, one of my favorite Facebook posts recently has been, tell a story about your kid or your pet, but call them my coworker, right? So, if your coworker happens to pee on the basement by the door, that's funny, right? It's not funny when your dog does it, but when your coworker does it for whatever reason, hilarity ensues. So if you want to use that as a Facebook post at some point in the next couple of days, you'll get a lot of conversation and a lot of good comments. So think about something your spouse or your kid or your pet has done, call them your coworker and tell the story and encourage others to do the same. I kind of already blew this one because I forgot this slide was in here. This is the story about agile development and the idea about working in sprints, hence the sprinter. So instead of talking about it during the time, I can talk about it here. But it really is like work in incremental blocks. Don't just isolate yourself for hours. It's not good for you. It's not good for your family and the people that are around. And it's not good necessarily for your home life. Now, if you're used to doing that and that's the world you work in, then great. What I'm trying to do is provide. It's funny. A lot of times we almost need permission to try new things. I'm trying to give you permission to experience this in a more joyous kind of way. So, sprints. This is the thing that I referenced with Miss Tonya Aka a moment ago. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. 100 years ago, actually 1913, Ivy Lee is a business consultant, and he's in a manufacturing plant, big steel mill back in the day. And he's talking to the owner, and he's telling the owner that the owner should hire him because he's got all kinds of great ideas to increase the efficiency of the plant. And the owner's like, hold on, big fella. The last thing I need here is more ideas. We've got more ideas than we know what to do with. What I need is help implementing these ideas and actually getting stuff done. If you can help me with that, I can't even tell you how much I pay for that. And Ivy Lee, being the smart business consultant that he was, said, all right, I'll tell you what, I can help you with that. I'm not going to be here very long, but I want you to think about what you are going to pay me, and I'll explain how that's going to work in a minute. Get out a note card. So the guy does, and he says, I want you to write down the 6 things that you absolutely know must be done for tomorrow. And I'm not talking about long projects. I'm talking about individual tasks. Maybe it's a letter. Maybe it's a phone call. It certainly wasn't an email, but for you all, it could be an email. Maybe it's some 2 people that you need to connect. Maybe it's a training you need to build, whatever the case may be. What are the 6 must-do things for tomorrow? Write those down. And so the guy says, all right, I'm done. I wrote them down. Ivy Lee says, great. Now look at that list and rewrite it in order of number 1, most important, to number 6, least important. And the guy's like, all right, moved a couple of them. Now what? He's like, well, now what I need you to do is I need you to spend the next week following this process. The process is simple. When you get into the office tomorrow, I want you to do number 1 first and work on it until it's done, or you can't do another thing and you have to delegate it. Then I want you to go on to number 2 and work on it till it's done, or you can't do another thing and have to delegate it. And I want you to go through 3, 4, 5, 6 similarly. And oh, by the way, if you don't get through all 6, that's okay. Move them to tomorrow. And the guy's like, that's it? And Ivy Lee's like, yeah, I want you to do that for a week. And when you're convinced that it's working for you, I want you to roll it out to your management team. I want them to do it for a week. And then when they're convinced that it's working for them, I want you to roll it out company-wide so everybody's doing it. Guy's like, well, that sounds really simple. And Ivy Lee said, yeah, I know. And I want you to pay me what you think this was worth, and based on how much more productive you are. And the guy's like, really? And Ivy Lee's like, yeah. And got up and walked out the office. Story goes 6 to 8 weeks later, Ivy leaves at his home, goes out to the mailbox. Sitting in his mail is a check for $25,000. $25,000 is a decent check today. Like, how many of you have gotten a check more than $25,000, right? This is 1913 money. $25,000 was a crap load. If you're sitting there with your phone, I suggest taking a photo of this slide and utilizing this as a way to help you move forward, because it really, really will, and it really can. And so when Tonya said, I work on 6 tasks, I'm guessing it's because she knows this story too, or heard something similar to it. Powerful stuff. Here's the big close, right? Because I was told we had about 30 minutes, and I'll stick around. I got plenty of time for Q&A. But ultimately, and this is really, really important, you need to find what works for you. I've heard the word grace ballied about a few times in the past couple of weeks, with the concept being, please give yourself grace. We're all in something we've never been in before. So allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to be sad. Allow yourself to be mad, right? Feel those emotions, internalize them to the extent that you need to, but let them go, release them. They're not yours. They're not yours to hold on to. And I can promise you that they're not going to serve you, right? But if you experience them a bit, then you don't have to continually carry them with you, right? My whole process and my whole lifestyle is built around, I'm going to hold on to what I need to hold on to, which is very, very little, but I'm going to experience the rest of it and let it go, right? It's the art of detachment. Again, don't judge me by my office. That's not my stuff. But the art of detachment is really, really an important thing. And especially in a time like this when it's so tough and so challenging. But please keep trying new things, try new space in the house, try new shifts in your workday, try working in sprints, understand that delegate and do or done model. I like how Bree said that, right? Doing, done, and delegated, I think were the 3 she said. You know, look at how you're going to communicate, how you're going to spend time with your people. All very important stuff. If you're looking to connect with me, and I hope you will, I welcome you to check out Trybean, TRYBEAN.com. I'm great to connect with on LinkedIn. I'm lousy to connect with on Facebook unless I can tell a story about you. I'm cool to connect on Instagram and Twitter, though. And one last request, go follow MI Kindness Pandemic on Facebook. So I know I saw some more comments pop in. Happy to answer any questions and stick around for a little bit and see what we've got next. Yay!
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, we did have a few other comments. Ellen said she's got a bandwidth issue. Her internet's not the strongest. The kids are at home doing their video calls. Bree's right. I curbside at Best Buy and wired directly into our router, so I can kind of cut the line, because my wife and I were both at home, a lot of video calls, whatever. I'm taking preference over the bandwidth by hardwiring into the connection. So just a suggestion there.
That's smart. Also, speedtest.com.
Mm-hmm.
Go to speedtest.com, because sometimes it's not even a bandwidth issue, it's a router issue. So if you haven't had an upgraded router in the past 4 years or so, it's might be a good time to look at that. And speed test will tell you what kind of connection you're getting to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be split out as properly, because you can set multiple channels, so the kids can be gaming or doing their video thing, and you can be doing your work thing on a different section of the network.
This is a good opportunity. Tomorrow we're having a conversation similar to this one, but I would say more more on the technical side of working from home, we're going to hear from Aaron Hamp. He owns a IT company here locally, and he's got some advice on the different platforms that you can use. Maybe he'll touch, I know he's watching here, but maybe he'll touch on that bandwidth problem that Ellen is dealing with. Bree, please.
So we have a lot of extroverts called in, and I know we talked a lot about the work, but a lot of our work, our being the group that's here today, is, you know, being out in the community, being out with other people. Can you speak at all to handling that isolation piece of working from home that we're all experiencing, more so now than those who work from home like one day a week or so?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what we're doing right now is a super good answer to this, right? So find, Tonya, in fact, is hosting a virtual wine. I don't know if I let the cat out of the bag, Tonya, sorry. But she's having a social event this evening, right? With some friends and some colleagues. And you're seeing a lot more of that. But it's interesting, what I've noticed is every conversation these days takes at least 3 times longer than they ever have, and that's good and that's cathartic, right? But the more we can do video interaction, the better off we are. Because I except for this past, I think it was yesterday, we went to the store to pick up jugs of water. It was the first time I've been out of the house in over 2 weeks, right? I mean, I walked through the neighborhood and I've talked to some neighbors, but there's no going anywhere, right? So find solace in this. This is now what face to face looks like. This is belly to belly as it gets for a little while. So do this, see these people, schedule the folks that matter to you, FaceTime, right? And understand that they're probably going through it too. The other piece of advice that I offer is check on the checkers, right? There are always those people that are always asking, how's everybody doing, right? How are you feeling? Those folks that are asking that, please make sure that somebody's asking them how they're doing too.
Yeah, and I would add too, just from a health perspective, some of you know that I myself have been self-isolating from my family this week because I've not been feeling good for the past few days, which has been hard. But, one of my leaders gave me the tip to just like try to get up and keep moving. And so whether you are sick or you're not, especially if you are sick though, like all you want to do is lay in bed and, skip that meeting and not do this, but getting up, trying to get ready, stretching, like just moving around. It's hard, especially when you don't feel good, but it makes you feel so much better. So Terry, you mentioned like getting out and going outside. When you say like stay home, it just, the mental part of that, thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to stay home, but realizing that you can still go out in your yard, still get some sunshine and some fresh air. Just remembering that is a huge part of it. Yeah, you can't go to your favorite restaurant for lunch, which, it's hard for us all, but there are still ways to get out.
Today's a gorgeous day to go stand outside, no doubt, right? I took my first 2 calls. Yeah, sit, right? I lay down. To your point, Bree, medically speaking, if you have this issue, right, and your lungs tighten up, it's really important to not just lay on your back.
Right.
Like stretching is the best thing you can do. So find some yoga poses. Even the beautiful thing about yoga in your home is nobody has any idea how awkward you are. Love that part, right? So mess around. doyouyoga.com is a great resource for gazillion videos of free stuff, as is YouTube. 30-day challenge with Adrian was great. So spend some time doing that because it's really worth it for your mindset, for your physical, right, and just your overall spiritual health.
I saw someone earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, they shared a link to all of the Zumba workouts that are free on YouTube. And this is the perfect time to take a Zumba class too, because absolutely no one can see you.
100%. Yeah, we all look great doing Zumba in our bedroom.
I see a couple of other things. Ellen and Jennifer are doing a virtual coffee. I know some friends and we've done a virtual happy hour. I know Tonya is doing her meetup this evening. What, Terry, anything remote socialization that you've done that you found interesting?
You know, all my college buddies and I Wednesday nights at 11 o'clock have been getting on and doing a virtual toast, and we've never done that ever, ever. So it's interesting. I'm one of the outliers. I look at this as a super positive in terms of the mental and spiritual reset our society is going through. And I know this is tough, and I know we're getting slapped upside the head, right? And that part sucks. And I know that there's going to be loss, and that's going to be devastating. But I really believe that we kind of needed this because we go through this, like, 2001, 9/11 happened. 2008, 2009, the market crashed and that happened. Here we are another decade later. We go through the same. Community comes together, we reprioritize, we reorganize, we establish that family is what really matters to us, and then all of a sudden we all get wiped back into the rat race within 18 months to 2 years. So it's like, okay, you know what, you didn't learn the last two times. Here, we're going to give you this, and let's see if you figure it out this time. Hopefully, we make some progress in that.
We've got a couple of comments coming through that people are playing games virtually.
Ooh,
I saw an app on Good Morning America today, actually. It's called House Party, and it's kind of like Zoom, but it's got the games built in. So you can play Heads Up in there. That's the game that they talked about, but there's a couple of games built into that. So a couple of my friends were going to try that tonight.
That's awesome. And I love virtual euchre. And I really want to hear about the Zoom scavenger hunt, Lori. That sounds like super fun. That sounds super fun. Virtual poker. So you're going to be playing these games tonight, Bree? That sounds cool.
Yeah, we're going to try Heads Up, just to get everyone together and laughing. And laughing's really been like the best medicine for all of this. I can't tell you how many times me and my kids have done the Macarena since this all started. They're getting really good at it, but we have a lot of good laughs. We got a couple of questions coming in. Lee is asking, what do you recommend for reconnecting your team when you do get back to the new normal? What tips do you have that we could implement at that time?
So I don't know what the new normal is going to be, right? So that's the big question for me is how many of us are actually going to stay kind of working remotely when the new normal hits, right? Because there's going to be a lagging effect. I envision people walking around with masks like we're in Asia and all kinds of interesting things. But one is, check in with your people, create this space where they're comfortable being a bit vulnerable, like Jennifer shared about being organized earlier. Let them know that it's okay and that you're there for them. So if you're not already doing a daily stand-up where that's question one, how are you doing? Implement that. If you're not using this to keep your people together, at least on a weekly basis, and I don't care if it's this, Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever you're using as the tech, WebEx, get people together so they can see each other. Schedule time where you're doing some one-on-ones, even if it's a 5 or a 10-minute check-in. It's not Lindsey Buckingham. That's the guy from Fleetwood Mac. But I think it is Buckingham is his last name. Strength Finder 2.0. He's got some really good insight on how to lead teams and build teams. I'll have to Google that at some point. I'll shoot you a link. But it's worth taking a look at and just, again, building that cohesiveness where you're allowing people to be together. And I mean, like, be together, right? That's the important part, right? Just open and honest communication, because we're all going to end up knowing people that are sick or passed. So we have to create that support system for that.
For sure. Meg says, yesterday during our staff meeting, when it was my turn to talk, I had a bunny mask on because I wanted to make my coworkers laugh and smile. So now each week I'm going to have a different mask on, and I love this. Kathy, who's in here, her and I did this during the first week. I ran and found like a hamburger suit I had, and she's got a wedding veil that's now kind of become like an icon in her computer room. And it's, yeah, just so important to be able to make each other smile and have a little fun with it.
And my wife loves bunnies, so that would be perfect for her.
This morning, our team, we were talking about, we do a monthly after hours, and it was suggested that we maybe explore a group of folks that could demonstrate how to make a beverage, you know, pour a cocktail. One of my favorite bartenders at Cork on Saginaw, or and just make it interactive, get everyone in here and hang out for an hour or two.
That's exactly awesome, right? That's what it really kind of needs to be. So I love that as a way to keep people engaged and together and to build on those relationships. So I cited, I was trying to do my own Google search. I cited Peter, it's not Peter though either, Buckingham. And that is definitely not the guy's name who wrote Strength Finder. So it's gonna take me a minute to figure out what I'm looking to do here. So I'll get that information to you. Marcus Buckingham. There we go. Hello, Marcus Buckingham. Big win.
This was fun. Anything from Bree or Terry, or any other questions from our attendees before we close out?
I would just say thank you for attending our bed talk today.
That's
it
awesome.
looks like you've got a glass of really white wine.
It's water, but I guess that's also one way to have fun with it. Just take a fun cup out of your cabinet. I know Steven's been having fun with his mugs. He accidentally showed his Tinkerbell mug in one of our webinars the other day. So
Steven's Tinkerbell. Yeah, evidently it's a fan favorite, according to Amber. Kathy asks, what was the winner? What's the favorite lunch, man? And I'm not going to be able to sleep if I don't know the answer to this. So
I think it was a tie. It was a tie between the baked potato bar and the taco bar.
I knew it.
So look for those in the near future.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I will look for all of you in the near future. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Hope you all got some value out of it and enjoyed the time we spent together. Grateful for it. So thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
I'm going to share just a little chamber news to update everyone on what's been going on at the chamber. We've obviously been closed to the public, but I think at home, as Terry kind of talked about, those 16-hour days are legit. And if you haven't liked our Facebook page, do that. Check out our website, flintgenesee.org/toolkit. We've got countless resources there. These webinars have been recorded. You can find those there. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, we're talking about another perspective on working from home, more of those technical pieces with Aaron Hamp. 2 o'clock, we're having a conversation with State Representative Cheryl Kennedy and the superintendent for the GISD on the executive order around K-12 and the ending of the school year. What does that mean for our kids? Today at 2 o'clock, we're doing a webinar with some panelists from the Chamber, Tyler Rossmessler, Adrian Walker, Elena Wines, and Nicole Williams, to answer your HR questions, your SBA questions, PPP, EIDL, all those crazy acronyms. We'll be ready for those questions. And these resources are available for all of you, member, non-member. Right now, we're doing this thing together. And that's the only way we're going to get through this. Bree, did I forget anything?
I think that's about it right now.
Terry, did I forget anything?
No, but you did an excellent summary, and I loved your point that together is how we're all going to get through this, and we will be stronger as a result. I promise you that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe pull the slide up one more time. Let's thank our sponsors again.
Heck yeah.
Good
There
one.
they are. I can't wait to get everyone back together. I mean, beyond just being able to socialize, but one thing I do miss is the constant interaction with our members in the office, at things like luncheon or the wind down. I hope we get like 500 stinking people at our next in-person luncheon, if that's allowed. I know safety first, and you know, if we need to wear masks and whatever. But thanks everyone for joining us.
I say we just have buffet style of every single meal that we pulled today.
Okay, well, why not?
Potato with a side of chicken, with a side of tacos.
Can I come?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
You're there.
We'll let you know. Kathy, I know you're watching. Let's see if we can. Oh wait, is she commenting now? Oh no, just a lot of thank yous. Cool. I think that's all we have. We'll see you in a month, hopefully in person. If not, we'll be right back here with another amazing guest. Thanks again, Terry.
Thank you. Guys, have a great day. Be well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.